Okay, I'd like to call this County Commission meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please silence all your cell phones. Take a moment of silent prayer. Thank you. I'll begin this morning's roll call with myself. Commissioner Jeff Culbertson's here. Commissioner Doug Smith. Here. Commissioner Mike Stephen. Here. Commissioner Vicki Cos.
Here.
Commissioner Mike Smith.
Here.
All present and accounted for. Public comment. I have one person signed up for public comment, Scott Noyes. Scott here. Would you come to the podium, please, and state your name and address? And you got 3 minutes, please.
Good morning. My name is Scott Noyes. I live at 21576 155th Street. I'm here today to give you some new information. My understanding is we've not heard from the fire marshal on our project yet, nor our staff. What we've done is we've hired a fire inspector to come out and give us an assessment of our property, give us a written report on what needs to be done to comply, then come back and re-inspect after we've done the work, and then we'll provide the report to the staff and the fire marshal's office. So with that in mind, I'd like to pass this information on to you. We'd like to ask you to approve today if you can based on that information. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oops, be careful.
Do we have any, I don't have anybody else signed up for public comment. Do you have anybody in the room would like come forward?
Right, yeah, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I don't know why it's not there. My name is Steve Vernon, Stranger Township. I'd like to ask the council to consider two different things. First of all, in the comprehensive plan, Fort Leavenworth is excluded with the exception of noting that it is the largest employer in the county. I would ask somebody to insert the following or words to this effect. In the comprehensive plan, Fort Leavenworth is the oldest military installation west of the Mississippi River, is the largest employer in the county, and the majority of employees of Northrop Grumman, the 10th largest employer in the county, also support the fort. Its military college hosts mid-level officers from all branches of the United States Armed Forces and military officers from around the world. It grants credit hours towards advanced degrees, has a master's degrees program in military science. The average stay at this institution is either 1 year for college students or 3 years for the Mission Command training programs. The average salary of the officers attending this school is well in excess of the average salary of the average person who lives in Leavenworth County. If the comprehensive plan is an economic development plan, it does not make sense to exclude all those customers from providing business for Leavenworth County businesses. The second thing I'd like to ask is that right now, concerning rural water, rural fire, and the townships, the only thing that is on the county webpage is a list of officers that is in the documents section. Okay, school's back in session now. I would request that the council look into creating some graphics showing where the rural fire districts are, where the rural water districts are, and where the townships are, and create a specific tab on the county webpage so that citizens that live in rural Leavenworth County might be able to access this data concerning the area where they live. And that's a great project for high school students that are in a VOTEC project at school. Okay. Subject to questions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else in the room have public comment? If not,
just to comment on what he said.
Yes, sir.
The comprehensive plan is reviewed. I don't know where you went. Oh, there you are.
Okay,
we review the comprehensive plan every year. So I would definitely take that language when they are updating the plan and present that to the Planning Commission, and then they would consider putting it into the comprehensive plan, and that's the way we're making changes to that. So
what I recommend that they kind of laughed at the suggestion, but anyway.
Do what?
When I recommended that earlier, that I don't want to say laughed at, but that suggestion was kind of not paid much attention to.
Well, we're not laughing now, so we appreciate
Okay.
that. We'll be looking at that. Okay.
Thank
Yeah, we'll definitely look at that. Thank you. Anybody else have anything to do with public comment? If not, we'll move on to administrative business. Mr. Lothry, you have some things this morning?
One of the things that I had emailed out is the KAC's legislative priorities list.
Yeah.
I don't know if any of you had a chance to put some things down, if you wanted to discuss that this morning, consolidate it into one, or if you want to get those to me so I can get those submitted later today.
I think, just to comment on that, we wrote a letter of support for the constitutional amendment on capping property taxes.
Mm-hmm.
I think if we could update and say we would like the LAVTR to be fully funded and a cap on property taxes, and that would be our updated submission.
I agree with that.
No problem with that.
Anybody have anything else they want to add to that? Okay.
And make sure there's no more unfunded mandates.
Yeah, you can add that to our letter. I'm sure they'll listen to that.
Well, that's all of our
That'll fix
problems,
it.
is the unfunded mandates.
Yeah, 30% of our budget is unfunded mandates.
Very good.
I'll get that updated and submitted today.
Okay.
The
Anybody else
other
have-
thing that's on the administrative business is the replacement of Commissioner Cause on certain committees.
I saw that, and I talked to Vicki. I think, well, first of all, first of the year, I'd like to be on the LCDC and Port Authority, so we'll see what the commission does. But my other thing is that with two new county commissioners coming on, I'd like to put that off, or at least be thinking about it until they're on board.
Oh, yeah.
Because they may have an interest in serving on these many that Vicki was serving on.
Yeah, we're going to have to divide up among a couple people.
Yeah. There's one I'd like. I think I could help with.
Yeah,
So no one has a problem with that. I'd like to wait till we get back.
Yep.
People come on.
that's a good idea. That's what we'll do.
Be still after November, and then we can appoint them, and they can just come in and already be appointed.
Voluntold.
Say surprise.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they can be voluntold.
So I did have one comment for
Yes, sir.
administrative business. I don't know, been watching television, been watching the last couple days. But just a reminder to people that in the last 4 years, home prices are up 40%, gasoline prices are up 45%, consumer price index is up 19.2%, crossings at our southern border are up 273%, federal public debt is up 28.5%, and homeownership is down. So when you're listening to all of these things that are being said, keep that all in mind.
I think everybody knows how inflation's hitting everybody.
Yeah, those numbers
But-
sound kind of low, actually.
Yeah.
That's
Depends
that's
on
you know
That's
home-
the official number.
Yep.
Yeah.
And home prices being up that high, you know, we talk about a new young couple trying to buy a house.
Yeah, because in real life, I think everybody knows those numbers are way worse than that. Or I got a lot
Yeah.
stronger because I can pick up $300 worth of groceries with one hand now.
Yeah, I don't think you've got any stronger.
Exactly.
So, with that being said, did commissioners have a chance to read the NACO paper, National Association of County, of what their priority list is?
I did. I saw
I
it.
just-
Sorry.
I just
read
got
it. I mean, some of it's good, and some of it's real bad. So, that's just me. That's my opinion.
I have not read. I just laid on my
It's
desk.
just one page of all their priorities, and it's interesting.
Sheer down. It really is as bad as it looks.
And we should continue to send representatives to that meeting, though. That's important because they do when you go to the meeting, you participate on all the different
Right.
committees.
Right.
And they do, you know, when you bring up things, they have to listen. Even if they don't like listening.
At least it gets on the radar. Do you have anything else, Mark? Anybody else have anything?
I just we've only had 2 people turn in Mark's evaluation.
Ooh, I got it on my desk.
So you knuckleheads that haven't turned it in yet, please get it to them in the next few days.
I did it. You said do it. You didn't say turn
Yeah,
it
you
in.
said turn it in.
I did it.
Okay, Doug.
You got to be more specific. Good.
Mine's done.
Mine's done
No, it
too.
didn't turn it in.
2 on the right got it done.
And we're going to wait and do the appointments till after. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else have anything else for administrative business? Then we'll move on to consent agenda.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Nothing needs to be removed. We'll begin voting with myself. Aye.
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 Consent agenda passes. Moving on to formal board action. Consider a motion to table Resolution 2024-19, case DV 24030, to a date certain as such time that additional information is received from the State Fire Marshal's Office. Morning, John, Amy. How are you?
Morning, John, Amy.
Good morning. This item was brought to you at the July 31st Board of County Commissioners meeting where you tabled this item in order to allow for the State Fire Marshal's Office time to complete the review of this event center application. As of writing the staff report, no review had been completed and no definitive date had been set for when that review would be completed. So we are here with the same information we had at that July 31st meeting. No additional information aside from what Mr. Noyes presented during the public comments is attached.
What's the holdup for getting it back? Have you heard?
Well,
You think
dealing with
you
the fire
done-
marshal's office, there's no telling, no definitive timeline that they can give us. They didn't
I can't hear you, John. I'm getting old.
They didn't give us a reason. They simply said they haven't got to it yet, that they'd get to it as soon as possible.
They didn't say a timetable?
There's no way to determine that timeline.
Okay.
So what date, if we do end up?
Why couldn't we just go ahead and approve it? Because the state fire marshal, we're not going to shut it down. It meets all of our guidelines.
And just make it contingent
But just-
on.
To be the state fire marshal that would be able to say they can't open. They could get the letter as soon as we get out of this meeting.
What do you guys think about that? If we just go ahead and approve it, but make it contingent on not having a problem with the fire marshal's report?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
you've received staff report and information. That's not a determination. That's to be made by you. You could grant this special use permit this morning, and should the state fire marshal in the future deem it to be an unsafe building, that would be the prerogative of the state fire marshal. I strongly urge you to not issue contingent special use permits because the issuance of a special use permit is a zoning issue.
Right.
And I'm not certain if it could be quickly withdrawn.
Okay.
So that's my 2 cents.
But if the state fire marshal shuts it down, we don't have any jurisdiction over the state fire marshal. We
No, you do
can't
not.
say the state fire marshal. So if we approve it and they shut it down, it's shut down.
And that's the prerogative of the state fire marshal.
Yeah.
I think we need to wait until, at least the gentleman said that they also were having someone, they had hired someone to provide a
Yeah,
report.
did you read that report?
Right. Well, I'm just,
Did you look at this?
no, but I just said that we
just
could,
look, to me, they're.
So the council's recommendation is that we wait.
No, my recommendation is you consider the following factors. You could wait for a report from the state fire marshal's office, should that report ever be issued in a time frame uncertain, or you could issue the special use permit, leaving the jurisdiction of the state fire marshal to cover the building, whether it's safe or not.
But don't put in the motion contingent on the marshal's report.
Do not make it contingent.
Just make a regular approval. And then the marshal's operating
it
completely
just says that
separate
he
of the
will do
county.
one. It
So
doesn't say he has.
Okay.
All right.
Well, I'll make that motion. I move that we approve Resolution 2024-19, case DEV 24-030, to approve a special use permit for that.
Second.
have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I have further discussion. It doesn't say that it has been inspected. It says that he will inspect the building and provide a detailed list of what needs to be done to meet and ensure the building is compliant with the 2006 Kansas State Fire Prevention Code and local adopted code. So it has not been done. This is just his
Fairmount
certifications.
Township inspected it. Fairmount Township Fire Department inspected it.
Yeah, but I think what
That was in the prior packet.
yeah.
I know, but I'm just saying, this is what the gentleman provided to us, was the certifications and the qualifications of the person who would be doing the inspection.
So as far as the county goes, everything's okay. We're just waiting on the fire marshal, and that's a completely separate entity. So if we did approve it, it still could be shut down by the state fire marshal. So
I would just hate to see somebody begin to operate something and then have it shut down. I mean,
yeah, I understand what you're saying.
But this just removes the barrier, any barrier from the county.
That too.
Yeah.
Okay. Any further discussion? If not, begin voting with myself. Aye.
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 No.
Motion passes 3-2. Thank you, guys.
One clarification.
Yes, sir.
Because it's a resolution that does this, you have to make the motion to approve resolution number.
Oh.
Yeah.
Whatever you do.
I thought Doug did that.
I thought that's what he said, but just say it again.
I put case DV.
Just have to repeat the resolution.
Yeah.
Identify the resolution and move to adopt and conduct the vote.
I read 2024-19 as a resolution.
You're just going to amend your motion to add the resolution number.
Yeah.
But I thought he had.
Okay. I'll amend my motion to adopt the resolution 2024-19.
Second.
Motion and a second, begin voting with myself. Aye.
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 nay.
No.
Motion carries 3-2. Thanks, guys. Next, consider a motion to table the annexation resolution of the City of Basel, Resolution 2024-13, to September 11th, 2024 at 9 a.m.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, your staff has been in discussion with the City of Basel on this matter. Those discussions have been timely, substantive, and have the goal of resolving this matter to be presented to you for an annexation by the City of Basel. Unfortunately, given the statutory deadline of 30 days from the submission of a resolution to the time that you are required to conduct a hearing, full information could not be presented to you. I will tell you the City of Basel they're timely, they've been working as they do, but my suggestion would be that you table this to a date certain. I would say 3 weeks would allow.
And that's September 11th, yeah. It's actually 4 weeks.
A rather auspicious date, but we could do it on the 11th.
Okay. I mean, it's 3 weeks from today.
That's fine.
September 11th.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we table the annexation resolution for the City of Basel to September 11th.
Second.
Motion and a second. No further discussion. Begin voting with myself. Aye.
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 Motion carries. We'll move it to 9/11. That's all we have for formal board action. Presentations and discussion items. Unfilled vacancies policy.
Commissioners, this is on the agenda as requested by Commissioner Stephen. We already have an existing policy, which you have a copy of in the packet, and then we have a proposed amendment to that policy, which you also have a copy of. The amendment just changes the application of the policy. The current policy requires that the board specifically request for this policy to be enforced. The amendment says that twice a year, I'm mandated to enforce the policy twice a year.
And mandated means you would bring that before the
Yeah,
board.
the board still votes on it. If you read the policy, I would have to bring it to the board. The other policy says the board has to request it.
How does that work with elected department heads?
Well, you would have to amend the budget as part of it. So that was contemplated, I think, when we adopted the policy originally back in 2018. But this is not on it's not on for a vote. It was just asked to be on as a discussion item.
Mm-hmm.
And Mark, this wouldn't affect the future budget. This is just something we'd review in case there's available funds for the crisis that we're in to be used at that time. But it repeats itself the following year. That budget would go back to the existing, what it was set up to be.
Yeah, this doesn't. What this does is it reviews open positions in the county twice a year. Many positions that are budgeted but unfilled, the amount from that year only is then amended and brought back into the general fund or whichever fund they happen to be in.
And we've been talking about this for a couple of years, but we haven't taken any action. So This would just formalize that.
You know, I don't have a problem with it, because if we're sitting on $500,000, and there's people that could use it, and there's some in this room and it's not being utilized, or it could reduce something, then there's no reason not to at least have the conversation.
So would we put that in a resolution going forward at another
just
meeting?
Put it on as an action item. It's not a resolution. It's just
Or-
a policy of the county. So the Board of County Commissioners approves it. So I just put it on an agenda in the future for you.
I'm good with that.
Sounds good to me. Anybody else have any issues with that?
No.
If not, that's what we'll do. Thanks, Mark. And thanks, Mike, for bringing that up. Okay, move on to Port Authority budget discussion, which I think everybody's here for in the room.
Welcome.
Good morning. Come on down.
Good morning, ladies.
Good to see you.
How are you guys this morning?
Appreciate the opportunity to come back and see you all. It seems to me we're getting to be real good friends. As the chair, current chair at least, of the Leavenworth County Port Authority, and Lisa, of course, LCDC, we're here to represent the interests of what we feel is a community and certainly our committee. You've repeatedly asked us, for instance, for return on investment. So we want to give you some of the short blogs here. You've got a copy of it. In the last 5 years, LCDC has helped facilitate the creation and retention of over at least 538 jobs. Who's going to do this in the future if not us? In the last 5 years, LCDC has helped engineer existing businesses with over $6 million in savings through the state programs, which have resulted in nearly $50 million of capital investment in Leavenworth County. If not us, who's going to take that call? In 5 years, LCDC has helped, in the last 5 years, has helped facilitate over $500 million in new capital investment. Just to give you an example, the two business parks, Gary Carlson Business Center and LCPA Business Park, established 35 years ago in 1989, generated $429,448.66 in property taxes. There are about 500 employees working there every day, many of whom live in and around and spend their paychecks in Leavenworth County. For instance, one of the businesses that initially received a 10-year 100% tax abatement, which is something we need to remind the public that the LCPA and LCDC has nothing to do with tax abatement. That's on the cities. But they've completed their agreement, and that company has expanded their footprint not once but twice and increased their employee number 5 times. 123 of their 200 employees live in Leavenworth County, further generating property taxes and spending money in retail and commercial businesses. As opposed to that, the Urban Hess Business Center, also an LCPA business park established 33 years ago in 1991, generated $164,488 in property taxes in 2023 and employs about 100 people currently. Tonganoxie Business Park opened in 2018, and now only 6 years later has over $500 million of capital investment and has just over 100 employees. We have a firm now, DSM Firmbrits, is currently in construction. We'll add another 28 jobs, and there's an interest by another company in a 10-acre lot. Furthermore, the transportation study, Properties for Progress, which was championed by Greg Kaz, is with us today. The LPA past chair has contributed over 100 hours of his volunteer time facilitating a collaborative effort and included representation from the cities of Basehor, Lansing, Leavenworth, Tonganoxie, Leavenworth County, and the LCPA. The effort prioritized future transportation investments in Leavenworth County and created a unified effort in requesting resources from state and federal programs. I'm sure everybody's getting tired of looking at Wyandotte, seeing their growth and expansion. How do I put it? If not us, whom does these things? We are funded. LCDC is. The LPA is a volunteer organization, has been for over 80 years. LCDS is funded by the county commission through taxes and things like that. The current budget that's been offered to us, unfortunately, reduces that below, short of paying our expenses in the business park that we legally have to pay, to virtually nothing. You asked us how we are hurt by this process. We could potentially lose our staff. I can't express how important it is to recognize the last 5 years of Mr. Steve Jack, who was her predecessor, and Lisa's work on behalf of connecting us with everybody in Kansas City, everybody in Topeka, everybody with the county surrounding us, So they have somebody to call, somebody to reach out to us. And not just done officially. If we have people in the county who have land that is available and we're approached by people who want that sort of thing, we're not real estate people, but if they have an opportunity, we'll reach out to private citizens with this, provide opportunities. And I can't express how important this is to the growth and the future of Leavenworth County. I understand that budgets are tough. That's here and today. But we have to plan for the future as well. We're the only ones, I believe, that are firmly entrenched in bringing in new businesses to this county and have been for years and will continue to do so. And we can't do it without Lisa and her staff. Our biggest fear is losing these people. Whether we can't do it this year or not, we'll find a reason perhaps, hopefully, to do better next year, but what happens next year? Eventually these people will leave, and then we have no reason to exist anymore. We are the economic arm of Leavenworth County. We've done so for years. I'd like to think we're successful. We're working at getting better at it, but we can't do it without your help. There's no question about that. That's why we're here.
Very good.
Any questions you have for us? We have presented you with the information with regard to how many taxes were paid in 2023 versus 2019. They go up every year. And the impacts, how do we replace that? How do we replace that if we lose their staff? The rest of us are volunteers. You appoint members to the LPA board, so they get turned over. The investor groups we have in the county and LCDC and everything, they get turned over and everything. Those are all volunteers. The amount of money and time that they invest is absolutely incredible. When you think about salaries and what have you, the individuals involved is absolutely incredible. So there's plenty of support out there from the community. Many of them are here in the audience today. We appreciate their showing up on our behalf. That's how important we are to the community. I ask you to reconsider the budget that you propose for us to allow us to continue operating in the future.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
A question. A couple questions. You know about the building here is falling apart. We have
Yes,
a $5 million expense, maybe $4 million, $5 million. It hasn't. We don't have the final total.
Yes, sir.
So we kind of have a gun against our head on the budget. So when we're talking about raising the mill levy, which is raising taxes on everybody to pay for all of this, maintain our infrastructure, keep roads and bridges maintained, keep the services maintained that people are used to. The focus is scrutinizing every little piece. So I think this is a good thing that you guys are here. But what if we had to fund at a minimal level for 1 year? What would be the minimal level that would allow you to maintain your staffing?
I'll let Lisa answer that question. She's got specifics.
For operations for both LCPA and the Port Authority and LCDC, would be $162,967.
Which that's our current funding level, right, Mark?
No, that's above what we're currently funding.
It's a little more than this year's this year 2024's funding. It's about $15,000, I believe, more, something like that.
Okay.
But the original budget request from the Port Authority was for $567,967. $405,000 of that was to enhance the program fund, and I think what they mean by the program fund is their current reserves of $777,000.
If I could just make a comment, 162. I've had a chance to think about this, and this has been going on for quite a few years when I came on the county. But something that you drove the point home that really, we do not have that many places that are trying to grow Leavenworth County. Now, residential is very important. And by the way, Leavenworth County has more residential permits than any other city for the first time in a long time, which shows we're doing something right. But we have to somehow be able to continue to invest in the future. And I know sometimes these things take 10, 20 years, which is a long time to recoup. And I know you're half correct when you say you don't set a tax abatement for neighborhood organizations and TIFs and things like that. You could work with the city to help make them understand how important it is that you get some money back, and that the county and the city both can work. So that's one thing we probably could be worked on. I know when I was the mayor, I used to do that, so everybody enjoyed it. Not everybody had to pay the bill. But I am concerned, and I've had to go back and forth on this, I am concerned that if we don't fund these folks, that is the one thing I see out there that is really causing us can cause us some problems. There's no way we can fund what you recommended. We just don't have it. In fact, keep looking up. The building may fall down on you. So we can't do that. But I think we have to take a real close look at how we keep this organization going. And I know there's been some hard feelings. Where's Josh at? I know there's been some hard feelings on this thing. That's one reason I've asked to be put on if the commission agreed for sure, the LCDC and Port Authority. I think Vicki did a great job, but I think I'll bring some things to the table, being a past city manager for a lot of years, that maybe could help out get this gap a little closer. Again, that's only me speaking. There's some other folks that don't think we need to do it. My concern without funding you for 1 year is that you cannot make a future county commissioners responsible for a future budget. And I've known sometimes when you take things away, you never see it again. I lived as a city administrator in Lansing for 16 years. We took away for 1 year, and I never saw it again to get back in the thing. So this is tough on us. So I want you to know these folks up here take a real hard look at it, and they both all got their own feeling. I don't know where it's going to come out. But I appreciate what all of you do, and this is really a tough time to do it, but there's no way I could support going higher than what we're doing. I'm just trying to get everybody to survive, and that's all I have.
Has the Port Authority looked at any other ways of funding? Because, we've been asking for this, whether it be you bring in a business, you keep the taxes for so many years, or there's some talk about putting it on the ballot to put it out for a mill levy or something, because there's no way we can fund you at the level that you need to be funded. I mean, there's just no way. But,
Greg, I think.
Yeah.
So we are working on that.
Okay.
That is in the process. It hasn't gone public, but
okay.
things happening.
But I mean, is there other ways, like you said, that if a business came in, it keeps so much of the taxes for so many years, or
How do you, business comes in, was it because of LCDC, was it because of the city, was it because of the chamber, and they all work together, and all of a sudden they're going to start pointing fingers. Who was responsible? I don't know how you're ever going to end up in a fight in the county. It's terrible. I mean, it's kind of like Hills. Hills came in, who was responsible? Was that LCDC? Was that the Port Authority? Was that
well, they want us to be responsible for the road, so.
Mark, did we used to?
Yeah.
Mark, did we used to have?
Well, but on 10 years tax abatement, it doesn't matter. Nobody's going to get anything.
I don't want it to be said.
Mill levy.
I'm getting ready to ask you.
We'll see.
Hey, Mark,
you will.
As I understand, there is a pilot payment in lieu of taxes, so there is immediate benefit from Hills, both to the school and to the city and the county.
Mark, did they used to be years ago? I'm getting old, a fresh memory. Didn't we have a mill levy or a half a mill set up for the LCD or for economic purposes? I can't remember what year. Now it's probably been a long time ago, but didn't we set that up, or the county set that up at one time?
Yeah, back when it was LAD, they had a mill designated.
3/8 of the mill levy.
It was. I'm sorry.
It was 3/8 of the mill.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Commissioners, every year they're funded by a mill levy. Continues on today, next year, previous years. The amount is subject to your approval and review.
Okay.
I believe that what you're referring to is there is a cap, and I don't remember the cap off the top of my head, but there is a cap on how much it can be. But there, again, every year, just as we do with every budget, you all have to review and decide what that's going to be for the following.
Yeah, I think what Mike's talking about is it used to be a designated mill levy increment instead of us figuring out the dollar amount every year. It was just automatic. So as the mill levy value moves,
So did that.
Yeah, it moved automatically, and we didn't have to figure out how much we were going to give them. It was automatic. But that was way back when it was LAD, I think.
Yeah,
early
level
80s.
development. Yeah, it was.
So the municipalities that are participating in Port Authority and LCDC, they have upped the ante as far as how much they give to your organization now, correct?
We use that formula that takes into account population and property valuation.
But those contributions have gone up.
Yes.
Did base drop out?
Yes.
So you have been working towards that goal already.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ways that are you talking about ways that we
how you've enhanced your fundraising.
Correct. And we established the investor committee to kind of take a look at that, and they have done some things to change the investor levels to increase the amount from the private sector as well, and kind of adjust some of the things, the events that we're doing, and add value so that we can increase that amount too.
So, and this is more macro than micro, but we've talked about economic development for a long time, and one of the things that's been mentioned is maybe the county's role might change to be sort of a funding mechanism, more so than funding your bureaucracy and day-to-day operation. But like if we're looking at building a new industrial park, then we would have maybe set aside $100,000, $200,000 a year, and then that fund would build up. And then when we get to the point where investment is needed, that maybe that you would have funding for projects rather than funding directly for the operation of the day-to-day of the organizations.
We had something similar like that in place, which has been set aside, the spec building program, and the whole idea was that as we gave a spec loan out to a business, which could go up to $200,000, that loan would be repaid after 10 years, after they'd paid off their mortgage and everything, or at the latest 10 years later. That money would come into the LCPA and thereby to LCDC. But it takes, at that point, it was set up so the county paid a share of that, and the cities paid a share of that benefited from that.
The spec building is more focused towards building warehouses, correct?
Houses that can be occupied.
Right. But if we were looking at like investing in a new industrial park or land acquisition or that kind of thing, that would have to be done differently.
No question. The Gary Carlson Business Park was donated to us all those years ago. That's not going to happen again.
No.
You all know what land costs,
Yeah.
and it has to be land that's got to be, shall we say, appropriately placed next to various transportation avenues. We can't just pick out a 50-acre lot or a 400-acre lot in northwest Leavenworth County or northeast Leavenworth County. So there's only a few of those spots available, and they are not inexpensive.
But if you got to the point that you guys were sort of self-sufficient as far as the day-to-day operation where you weren't depending on county funds for maintaining your staff, then the monies from the county at that point could be focused on land acquisition or industrial park development or that. And I think we tried with what we tried to do with when Tom was here was to kind of get to that point, but I think we've kind of hit a wall. But I think we should, and I'm not for defunding you guys at all, but I'm also not for cutting county wages either. But we're looking at every avenue, and so everything has to be on the table this year.
I understand. I guess I would, as a last comment, I know we take a lot of your time. I would remind the county commissioners that our budget was cut in half over 5 years ago.
Yep.
And here we are now being cut almost down to zero. That sends a very poor message out to the state and everything about how we feel about economic development in Leavenworth County.
I agree.
We're standing next to Wyandotte County, which has done tremendous things and can continue to do tremendous things. We need to be part of that. We were lucky enough to meet with, for instance, Senator Marshall came down to meet with LCDS and the Port Authority ourselves, and we were able to put some funds in there to help get federal help, if we could possibly do so. Those are through her connections that happened. She's the one that goes to these meetings spread out across the United States to share the message of Leavenworth County, the values that we have, the community, and what we have available to investor groups all over. I'll ask again, who is going to do that in this room? Who is going to do that in the courthouse? Who's going to do that anywhere? If not us, who? That's our biggest loss.
Then on the other hand, if Dad lost his job,
yes,
we can't go on vacation.
Bless your heart.
And that's what the county is up against as far as this budget. The roof is falling in, and I see whatever we do this year is going to be very. It's going to be a temporary move, but it's going to. And I understand the reason you took the hit was because we were trying to set up a different type of a setup, and I see that has kind of hit a brick wall, and we need to go back to the drawing board. But that being said, this is a particular, this year is very tough, and that's what we have to let you guys know about.
And the funding was cut, that was around, we invested $10 million in these industrial parks too. And since I've been here, it's probably been about $13 million we've invested in economic development. And that's more money than the county has invested in bridges out of their coffers, because the bridges are a match fund from the state. And we've got some deficient bridges right now, a lot of them. So I was doing comparables, and then you brought up the spec building program. We were told if we didn't give $50,000, the UPS store wasn't going to happen. It's open, and we didn't get $50,000. So
the only thing I'd offer to that specific thing is they did approach us. They didn't complete everything they were supposed to. We were prepared to make a loan for them. As you're right, we're
but you guys said it wasn't going to happen unless we gave $50,000 toward that.
No, that was.
No, I was at the meetings. That's what was said.
Well,
May I say that, yes, you all have invested in economic development, but you're also receiving ROI. You're receiving return on investment, and we have that clearly identified. Every year you're receiving hundreds of thousands of dollars in property taxes all over the county. And so I guess I would just say, yes, we are, I mean, there is an investment. I would also say the analogy to the family budget, I would say we are more like not a vacation, but more like a retirement plan. We're kind of the future, and if you need a new roof, you wouldn't want to stop paying into your retirement plan.
Well, if Dad loses his job, we might have to stop paying into the retirement fund.
And we don't want to be contentious here. We appreciate the opportunity to sit in front of this August committee and make a case. I understand it's a tough budget.
There's $777,000 in the Port Authority Reserve.
As he pointed out.
And is it possible, if we split the difference on a one-year basis, that we could get the funding that we need to maintain for 1 year, and then come back and maybe then have discussions going forward of what economic development by the county is going to be?
I think that's doable, and I think it's very important, mainly because it allows us to keep our staff. However, Lisa and her staff do a fantastic job. The risk of losing them is always there. So I believe this would be something we could do this year. That's not what that money is supposed to be used for, but nonetheless, we were willing to do so just to keep the staff.
I'm just throwing that out there as a...
Vicki, you have something?
I just think that, we are talking about the future, and we're talking about what's going to happen down the road. And yes, we are struggling right now because of the economy and things, but that's the time when you have to invest, that we have to look at what economic development, we have to invest in economic development. If we're going to try to address some of our deficits, and we're going to try to move in a direction that is bringing Leavenworth County forward, we can't take a step back by saying, so we're going to reduce the funding, we're not going to continue to fund at an appropriate level economic development. As we all know, I was opposed to the original plan for having an economic development department because I felt like we already had an economic development program that we could partner with, which was the LCDC and the Port Authority to work with that. So I just see that we're moving backward. I understand that there are needs, that we have a building, but part of the problem is that we have made poor decisions, not necessarily us, but poor decisions have been made in the past regarding having enough reserve funds to fix and maintain the roof of the building to begin with. So when you're talking about Dad lost his job, hopefully along the way Dad made an investment in making sure the roof stayed in place, that wasn't going to fail.
Amen.
To be, in the middle of all of the disaster. Well, that's what happens when we don't properly address and plan for the future, and we have to do that if we're going to grow as a county and we want to thrive. I mean, that's just, and we have individuals and community members who do not want to have to depend on their individual residential property taxes. Then we have to bring in businesses, and we have to invest in industry and business if we're going to begin to create enough revenue so that doesn't negatively impact the people who are having to share the cost and the benefits of living in Leavenworth County. Because as Jeff points out regularly, we're dependent on 60% of the population to pay for 100% of the bills.
Yep.
So That's just my take and my opinion.
Well,
but
and I agree with you, and I don't like taking from this 777,000 because that is what my I don't know what you all's vision is, but I envision that we have another industrial park built in Leavenworth County, and that it's a very successful business park. Like when I became a commissioner, Tonganoxie Business Park only had one, and now we're almost full. And very successful. And anybody that questions tax abatement, just remember that the abatement for the schools is not happening. The schools are already getting the money, and it is benefiting the community already. So I think people need to consider that. But if it's a 1 year, if it has to be, maybe we can have, I don't know how we would make it happen, but that's the way we can keep the staff.
And that's my biggest fear.
Well, let me just throw one thing in here. I don't think we should cut it in half because it's hard to get that money back. And I'll take the responsibility. I was one of the people that voted to bring in on split your thing and go with the economic director or a department. I thought that was the way to go because we really didn't see much happening at the time from what LCDC or Port Authority, even though there was a lot of things been done in the past. So that decision, you want to see elected officials say I was wrong. I was wrong on that. So I want y'all to know that. But I don't agree that we should take this down any further than what we've done. I know it's tough, but this has been, again, I've been going back and forth on this because I know how tough it is and what the legislators didn't do for us, and they could have to help us all out, everybody in this room. But at the same time, there's not that many investments that are going for the entire county to maybe we'll get some return on it. So, I mean, the board's going to vote the way they're going to vote, but I think we need to leave it at where it was asked, the 160-something thousand, and just survive. If we take it out, I guarantee you it's going to be tough to get it back next year.
You brought up an interesting point when you said state representatives. We've got one that's, if he gets reelected, he's going to bring all these jobs back to the county. So we got that covered. But Commissioner Stevens, you brought up an interesting point about the schools getting their share on a tax abatement. We got a letter from the superintendent of 453 in support. Do the school districts fund you? Does the school districts have ever been approached about funding Port Authority?
They are an investor, but I will also say they benefit from the taxes that.
That's what I'm saying. They should be giving money then to Port Authority.
They do. The USD 453.
Does any of the others? Does Tonganoxie School District give any money?
They give money as an investor. They don't like the county funds your organization. They don't do that. Correct.
You know, I think we really need to go back to where so we don't have this discussion every year. Is that we need to lock in something where it's a vote on a mill levy that Greg and I have talked about, or it's something else so it's automatically part of the budget. Economic growth is going to be part of any place that you live, and to come up here and have to go back and forth. If you have it set at a 3/4 of a mil, whatever it's set at, it automatically go up because that's the way it is. The cost of living, everything else, the index will take it up. But to come back here every year and have to go through this, when I know everybody in the audience and everybody up here,
we've been talking about this.
Everybody in the audience, everybody up here is trying to do the right thing. We don't need to have this. We need to have some kind of formula that's set in place that becomes part of our budget.
So would it be wise to put it on the ballot this year, November? It's a big election. Would it cost anything to put it on the ballot this year?
But I think that you need to give the involved parties the time to put together the information and things to educate the public. I mean, it takes public education to make something like that happen, and I'm not sure that this is the time.
We wouldn't want to do
That's
it on
just
a special election. It costs money.
We're in a unique opportunity. I don't know whether you know, being the Port Authority in Leavenworth is one of only two in the state of Kansas.
Right.
Yep.
By statute, we have the independent authority to go ahead and ask for a mill levy.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of those things where we're not prepared. We just found this out, and we were just reminded of this. So we were preparing for next November, not this November, but the following November, so we can educate the populace. So what the mill levy, and that would be then dedicated to the LPA through which LCDS gets its money. But I think it's important whenever we go out to the constituents of Leavenworth County, of which I'm a member. I live in Basehor, for goodness sakes, as everybody in this room, I expect. We need to educate them what that money is going to be used for, why we're asking it, where it's going to be used for, and we can give it to them to the dime, for goodness sake. There's not going to be any guessing. We're open, Many commissioners have joined us in our meetings. We don't hide anything. If there's ever an executive session, it's simply to conceal people that have approached us or not ready to go public about perhaps buildings. Other than that, there's no hidden agenda or anything at all. We're open to everybody to see everything we do. We'll get a bigger room if we have.
School districts get the benefit or the majority of the taxes. They get the lion's share, so I think they should be supporting your organization also.
So, comment on what Commissioner Smith said. I don't necessarily think we made the wrong decision. I just don't think it turned out the way we anticipated.
An orange is
as
an
far
orange.
As economic, and I say that because I think we need to. There has to be a funding mechanism for what we're planning to do, like large projects. There has to be. We can work with the Department of Commerce. We can get grants. We can do all these things. But if the county was supporting some of the funding of some of those projects, and you had a fund that was growing, and then when it comes time to do a large project, we have an amount of money that's ready to help make that happen. That's what I see as the county's role in economic development, more so than I thought Tom would kind of be able to congeal all that, but I still think we need to be talking. The county and the economic development folks need to be talking about what the future looks like as far as what the county's role is and what the city's roles are and where everybody fits in this picture, because I still think we're kind of we're not always certain.
Can I give you an historical example? And we do work on those things, so I give you a historical example which probably predates a lot of you. We have a fantastic road between here and Atchison, do we not? The Amelia Earhart?
Yeah.
That was because the studies were done, the engineering was done, everything was laid in place, even though it was shelved because there was no money to build it. Then we happened to run across a political time within the state where Mr. Dole and Ms. Castlebaum were both leaving office. Their fellow people in Washington granted them, shall we say, some lame duck things, and one of those included money for highways in Kansas and Boone. Ours was on top of the list. It got built. I'm not sure there's anybody in this room who could say that, okay, it's a nice highway, but do we have the traffic to justify all that money was spent? Now, it didn't come out of our pockets directly. We got that from the feds. But we're always working on projects like this behind the boards. We're currently working on, okay, where is the next industrial park going to go? But it's easy for somebody to say, hey, I've got great land out here for an industrial park in western Leavenworth County, but yeah, there's no traffic, there's no roads, there's no nothing. That would take lots of involvement of federal money and building highways and things like that. So we're developing an overlay. We may come up with 3 properties out of all this work over the last 6 months at least. We may come up with 3 projects or 3 opportunities that we could bring to you. So this is the next opportunity. And we need to buy the land now because it's not getting cheaper.
It's being
What if we
discussed.
can't take power to it and everything like that right now?
Well, I got to give a head off to our county administrator. A few weeks ago, I can't go into it because we're looking for land for you too at a good price, which is called zero. and we thought we had a place, but somebody had already beat us to it. So we're also at that end. The reason we didn't bring you into it because there was no need. We didn't have an end to it. So up to him setting up a meeting we had a few weeks ago, we had the opportunity to talk to some folks. We were just slow. And someone else had already done something with it, but it had been perfect in my opinion. There's no cost to it. So we want you to know that we're looking for that too, not just, it takes all of us to get these things accomplished. And sometimes our county administrator has to tell us things we don't want to hear, but he's trying to do, he's a good numbers guy, but he's trying to tell us what's going to happen, reaction is going to be like that. And we don't always follow him. So this is one of the tough times we're looking at, but we're all in this. And I think, again, I'll go back, and I hate to repeat myself, we've got to find a formula that we're not sitting there for every year that will allow our economic thing to grow at the same time, give you the funding that y'all need for years to come.
I would offer a personal note just to each one of the county commissioners I've dealt with. I have a great deal of admiration for each one of you for running for public office, for putting yourselves, your families out for scrutiny, and then putting up with all, shall we say, the differing opinions in a county. It takes a special individual. And if I've come across differently, I apologize for that. I have a great deal of respect. However, I will fight for what I believe is right here for this commission and for these people sitting here beside me and back in the audience. So forgive me if I am overzealous at times.
Well, and I think the difference is you guys, and I think everybody that showed up, is thinking that they need to fight to explain to the commission why LCDC is important. You don't have to do that. We already know. The problem is, and I like the idea of just setting a mill levy like it used to be, because then everybody's sure what's going to happen, and we don't have to rehash it every year over again to see what the dollar amount's going to be. It's set. Problem with that, and put it before a vote to the people, is most people don't realize, like we do, how important LCDC is. Just like Commissioner Cox said, is you got to spend money to make money, and a lot of people don't understand that. You know, it's a lot like the first thing we get thrown in our face is you're funding outside agencies over core county departments. So it's a lot like, you know, Commissioner Stevens talking about if your budget's hurting, your money's tight, you know, all your neighbor kids are coming over to eat at your house. First thing you do is you don't tell your kids they can eat less. You tell the neighbor kids to quit coming over so you don't support them. The problem is this neighbor kid is an investment, and most people don't understand that. So we do see that. You don't have to tell us how important you are. We get that. The problem now is, like Chad used to say, which sucks less. We're no longer looking at, are we going to do perk tests or fund LCDC? Are we going to do health department inspections or fund LCDC? We're now looking at, are we going to close some roads and bridges or fund LCDC? Are we going to get rid of an ambulance or fund LCDC? So we've gotten to a minimum level of assets and services in every single department. You know, we've laid off employees, we've combined departments, so we have less department heads, we've cut benefits, we've done all these things to now the point we're at is very important things versus LCDC. So that's what we've got to get figured out. You know, we're hoping that you understand that and you can work with us. And when we see that you've got almost a $750,000 rainy day fund, we're asking, I think, myself, I'm just one of five, is if you could help us out and get us through a year or two till we can get things figured out. Because we inherited all these problems. The courthouse wouldn't be a problem if our predecessors would have put money aside for the courthouse maintenance, but they didn't. So we have all these problems dumped in our lap. So we've got to choose which sucks less. And that's,
you know, there's one thing too, though. You know, when you have a special election, there's a lot of money involved in something like that. I'm not sure as elected officials that we shouldn't say, okay, this is what we're going to set aside. And yeah, 1 year the budget's going to take a hit on it. That's for 1 year. From then on, it's part of the budget, and people understand it. So I don't, you know, it's a high-risk maneuver when you go out and vote on something, because if you lose, it's sending us a message that people out in the public don't want it, and that's who we respond to.
But that's the problem, is they don't understand.
Yeah, I agree, but we've seen that with the property tax and everything else that the state didn't help us with or help anybody. But if we set it in our budget, then it just continues on from year to year. Yeah, we're going to take some hits, but it'll be finally said and done, and everyone knows what they can. It'll grow and what they can use it for.
Yeah. So, and maybe we should add that to our list to the legislature, give support to local economic development. They're the ones setting on $4 billion.
Yeah, I have no problem with that, Doug.
How much do we have? How much did we budget for this year? You said it was less than 162. What was it?
The current budget's like $29,000. $23,450.
Well, that's what you have in the current budget. But what did we spend last year?
$149.
154. But the 162 is what you need. So if we split that, I will just say my position will be that I will at least be willing to fund half of that.
We appreciate any help we could get at this point.
I'm just glad Mr. Shempey knows that we predate Amelia Earhart Drive. So when the sales tax was passed, it was sold to the voters that we would give 20% toward economic development. And what's our sales tax doing? And that was based on the collecting what, $90 million, $100 million. over the 20 years?
I don't think it said I don't think the question was that we would give 20%. I think what it said was at the end of the sales tax, once our projects were done, we'd look to see what was left and we could contribute up to that amount.
No, I got a public notice here.
The question. And so we've given $10 million out of that, I believe.
Right. So we're at our 20%. It collects $100 million.
That money, the sales tax money, goes toward.
I mean, we didn't. No, they didn't ever say 20 or 100 million. It was like 80 million, wasn't it?
I don't remember off the top of my head, Commissioner. I don't have that.
But we've collected. We're doing better than what was projected. Correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm just saying that there may be some money left in there.
Well, the sales tax money, you could certainly decide to take money away from the roads and put it towards this. I think there's probably.
No, I'm not talking about this year, but down the road, because we're not 10 years into this yet. We're close.
7 years.
Yeah. So maybe at 10 years, it could reevaluate, because if there's going to be a land purchase, there's going to have to be some kind of funding. There's just no way that, like Mr. Shimke said, that the land's just, there's not going to be any bargains.
Mr. Cos could speak much more clearly on that in the matter, but it's not just a matter of purchasing the land, it's a matter of bringing land up to an appropriate level, which means you're talking about
Right.
Water and everything.
Right.
Before
The
we
infrastructure
build
to that, because
a
there's
spec
nothing
building
close
on
to
it,
town.
like that.
Which is
So
why they
it's
can't-
a huge investment on the county's behalf.
Which is why
No
they can't
question.
deplete their funds that they have in the bank. You start taking away from that, then you start reducing the ability of them to make an investment that is meaningful, that can accomplish what we're trying to accomplish here. That's
Well, I have no problem with, I don't know if I'll be here for the pre-legislative breakfast, to work on our legislatures to try to get some money back to this county for economic development, especially with everything going on across the river.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Because
I do think we should be having conversations in the next year or so with the county commissioners and with your organization as far as what is and I think enhancing the communication between the commissioners and the economic development organizations to really get us all on the same page.
Mike, that's why I volunteer. Everyone knows I love to talk. So I wouldn't mind sitting on the LCDC and Port Authority, attending their meetings. I think just because of being a city manager, I bring something to the table. I've been on both sides of it. And I know when Lansing was ready to get out and see some things like that. I'll do whatever the commission wants as a whole. I don't believe we should take that 160 away. I don't believe we should cut it in half because we're just digging ourselves another hole. But if that's what everybody can live with, I'm fine to do it. I just caution you that when you start taking funds away, it's hard to get them back.
The LPA serves at your leisure, as you well know. You're appointed, the cities appoint those members. So we are at your pleasure now.
Yeah, I used to tell Greg he didn't please me.
Pardon?
I used to tell Greg Cross he didn't please me.
It's just one of those things. Like I said, we can't replace Vern or staff.
Yeah.
Do we have the money in our budget? It's not what it's supposed to be used for. Can we use it to do that? Yeah. But a year from now, if we look at the same problems, I can't guarantee we're going to keep these.
I know. Mr. Chair, I think we've beat this horse to death, drug it out and shot it. I think I'd like to say we move on to this. Everybody's done a great job unless someone of the commissioners has something. I think we know where we threw everything on the table and we'll just have to come down once budget time on the vote's going to turn out.
We thank you for your time. We appreciate the opportunity to
Thank
reach
you.
out to you all.
Thank you, folks.
And I just wanted to finish up with saying, if any of these outside agencies have a rainy day fund, it's raining. So we're asking for your help also. So thank you guys very much.
Thank you, folks.
These here, just some documents to show some of the ROI.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thanks for your time.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for your time.
Yes.
So should we next week we're going to have a hearing and then a vote on the budget. It would seem probably appropriate to decide if we're going to fund the full $162,000 or if we're going to fund half.
Well, that's next on our list of things to talk about. Jeff Scott, budget things.
Yeah, moving on to budget discussion as needed. So go right ahead.
I mean, I believe we do need to maintain enough so that they can maintain their staff, but they did agree to half and half. So I think we ought to take them up on that.
You're not taking into account what their original request was, and
But I'm taking into account the building, our budget issues.
Well, I like the 162 that they came in with. Like I said, this has been tough. I know everybody out there suffering mill levy, but this is just a driver in the economic community in the county, and I just think it should 162. I believe is what they asked for, is what we should fund. It's not the 300,000 or 400,000 they were looking at. What was it, Mark?
Commissioner, they asked for 560.
No, but I know what we funded them last year. It's
154, 360.
And didn't Lisa say they need 162?
Yep.
The operations that they said they have 162,960.
That's what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
I agree.
If we're, and last week we discussed all the different portions of the budget.
Yeah.
Requests from the county attorney's office, the raises that are on the table, and the fact is, in my opinion, somebody's going to have to take a hit. We've got to be tough with this budget this year.
And that's exactly what I'm talking about, over taking care of outside agencies over core employee county.
So are you okay with funding half and they take half from their reserves?
No.
You'd rather
it's raining. It is thunderstorming. So,
I guess
I said,
we should just make a motion. Okay, you want to make your motion that it's fully funded and we'll see where everybody's at?
Well,
I don't think we do that.
Yeah, it's not on the agenda
We need
today.
consensus.
voting, the budget gets approved next year.
Yeah.
Well, we can give direction.
I'd like to have it changed to 168.
Remember, though, you cannot increase the mill levy at this point. The mill levy is set. So if you increase funding for something that's currently in the budget, you have to take it away from somewhere else.
And what did you...
Part of your motion would have to be where you want to move the funds from in order to fund the...
Well, I was never for the 2 mills. I was for that 1.5 anyway, so that we're setting at 2, so we still have half a mill without going over it.
That's designated right now, correct?
Well, currently, that's what I'm saying. Currently,
Right.
that money is designated for the building, 1 mill, and the road and bridge fund, 1 mill.
Where were you going to take
if
it?
If you want to move money from that to this, you have to decide where it's coming from.
How much did you have calculated for Port Authority or LCDC with the 2 mil?
23,000. The current budget has them at 23,000.
So you have to come up with 150.
So I'll just make a motion just to throw something out. I'll move that we.
Well, I don't think we're going to make a motion
We
today.
can't make a motion, we can direct.
Discussion,
Yeah,
Just discuss
yeah, you
in
can give it
consensus and
direction.
have
Then I
staff.
would suggest that we do half, and that their reserves take half for 1 year, and then we also meet with them to discuss the direction moving
But
forward.
we're already doing about half. I mean,
Half of half.
No, we're not.
No.
It would be.
Okay,
we're
it was-
talking about 80-something.
It would be about $82,000.
And then that would come out of the road and bridge.
So I'm definitely not for taking it out of Road and Bridge.
Well, I mean, that's.
but
I
we've
know.
also noticed and given notice to the, and this is coming from me, which is, we've also given notice for how many years to our
3
nonprofit
years.
organizations that we were no longer going to continue providing their funding.
Exactly.
And then we continue to do so. So I think if we're going to reduce any amounts or cut any of those amounts, that it should come from people that have been put on notice, and maybe not their entire amounts.
Yeah.
But as we're discussing next
Good
week
point.
and as we're
What the
looking
letter
at it,
say. Don't expect anything.
anything. So
Yeah.
if we cut in half what they have requested, then we might, or, work
Well,
through that. That fund is where I think that we need to look at whether or not reduce what we're funding. That's
When I
just,
say road and bridge, this 2 mills has built in a $1.2 million increase. So we're just reducing that by $80,000.
Yeah, I get it.
I mean,
But
it's not, we're
I'm
not
still
actually
not
cutting
for it.
road and bridge.
I get it.
So,
But it's way behind already is the problem.
I know, but that's just to clarify with people that they don't think, you're,
Right.
a lot of times in government things, when you reduce budgets, you're actually reducing increases.
Right. But like Vicki said, the part I don't get is we have been telling these agencies for 3 or 4 years now do not expect any more money from the county. And now they all act like they're surprised.
Mark, did you already have that
Get it.
calculated in the budget about not funding the outside sources?
400 and some
Currently, they're
thousand.
funded.
Okay.
Commissioner, as was presented, it's about $440,000 goes to outside agencies. The bulk of that is the extension, and then it's Alliance Against Family Violence, the Riverside Resources, the fairgrounds, and soil conservation, I believe, make up the rest of that.
Are we obligated to fund the extension to the amount that we've been doing?
Well,
Is there a law?
no, I don't think there's any statutory requirement that we fund them at that amount, but I will tell you that we are about 85 to 90% of their budget. So
Right, we can't.
They'll close.
if you reduce
Right, we can't do that.
that's a layoff in staff over there.
I got you.
don't know how
That was my question. Okay.
But how much money did we spend remodeling the building for them to move in? We had
700,000, I think.
okay, and we were going to save all this money by them not paying rent. We'd been better off leaving them out of Lansing, pay the rent, because they have not lowered their budget since they've moved in there and haven't been paying rent and utilities.
Well, and the other problem is, like I said, we sent the letters out telling them, because we saw this coming years
Right,
ago.
right.
Because everything the state has set up is designed to implode the county's budget. And we saw this coming, and it's going to get worse. So we told them 3 or 4 years ago that the lowest hanging fruit is going to be outside agencies. We can see it coming. We don't have to do it this year, but next year or the year after that, and guess where we are? We're exactly where we said we would be 3 or 4 years down the road.
Which
picking and
outside
choosing.
agencies do you want to take the 80,000 from?
All of them. We've told them all. We've got to take care of county core departments first, and if there's any money left over, then we'll give it to the outside
So if
agencies.
we zero out the Lions, is that 40,000?
I think they're 30. I have it just a second.
Yeah, I get your point. I'm just saying that's
I mean,
where we're at.
The point is,
having to
there's
choose
where the
the bulk,
the
the
bulk
bigger,
of the money
yeah,
is.
the bigger chunk.
These are such little entities
Right.
where you're going to have such a disproportionate impact.
Yep,
The
that's
Alliance
right.
Against Family Violence is $30,000. Soil conservation is $25,000. Riverside Resources is $60,000. The fair, between their premiums and their fair building, is $60,000, and the extension is $265,000. I will note that the fair premiums are the one thing that we are statutorily required to.
Right.
Right.
So I guess just for discussion, I mean, is the discussion you want to increase it, but you don't want to take it out of the increase on road and bridge.
Well, and all this is exactly why we try to make it important to these agencies also. How important LAVTR was to get refunded. How important these state unfunded mandates. 30% or more of our county budget is state unfunded mandates. All the exemptions that they keep passing. The state is designing this whole thing for us to fold. And so we told them this. It's coming. Don't expect any more money from the county.
So specifically, where do you want to take the money from?
It's got to come from outside agencies first.
Which one?
That's all. We're going to have to figure that out. And like you said, it's difficult because you can fund a whole bunch of agencies for not that much because they're not asking for much, or one big one. So that's the part we got to figure out. Or
Well,
two,
I guess
two
this
big
discussion will have to go on until next week. Huh?
ones. Yeah, next week it'll be on the agenda.
Public hearing.
Yeah. Okay. Any more budget discussion items for this morning? If not, we can go to.
So basically, we're all over the board on this. It's going to come down to a vote next week.
Yep.
We're not going to do a consensus to at least see what direction we should be going. Well,
We're
I
trying
think,
to, but there didn't seem to be.
Yeah.
I think there's two on the funding the entire amount, 162, but I don't think I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see next week. I just do your homework, I guess.
We'll have a couple options for next week. That clear as mud, Mark?
Yeah, no decision today.
Yeah, and we're going to need a couple options probably for the.
There are an unlimited amount of options, commissioners.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of where we decide the money is going to
Right.
come from and how much. I think the two decisions are how much and then where it's coming from. Because, again, you cannot increase the mill levy. So it
Right.
has to come from existing funds.
Okay.
Good enough.
All right.
We adjourn.
Moving
No.
on to, well,
Not yet, we
yeah,
have to-
first thing you want to talk about.
Set it
I don't
out,
have
Michael.
anything. You got anything?
No, I don't have anything.
Mike, you got anything? Nope. Vicki?
Let's see, I did Port Authority yesterday and KCATA Finance Committee meeting yesterday in the city of Leavenworth. City of Leavenworth, the Camp Leavenworth is coming up in September, and so kind of put that on your calendars because it's kind of a fun event for the community to participate in.
How long did that meeting last time?
Not too long.
Was short?
It was
There's a
a
hit.
little less than an hour.
I don't know. That's
That's
good
still
for
too
you.
long.
Every time I go, it's 20 minutes. When Vicki goes, it's 3 hours.
But it was a good meeting. But I think the big
Study session.
Yeah, it was study
Oh,
session.
yeah.
It was
That's
study
what
session.
do it, yeah.
But they gave kind of an update on that, and I just think it's something that we need to get the community behind. They're going to have a what is it, like a talent kind of contest that's going to be done this year. So if anybody
Oh, yeah,
really
I
wants to
saw that.
showcase their talent, you might want to contact the Camp
Mr.
Leavenworth
Hingula going to
organizers. And
participate?
what's that?
Mr. Hingula going to participate in that?
No.
Mr. Smith's going to say,
Well, I'm just saying. I think it's
Don't help
kind of
me,
a,
Ed.
it's a fun thing, and it's something that's newly being added. And they also still have slots open for the 5K run, which is going to be for that Saturday. So, yeah, run walk.
Yeah.
Run walk. You don't have to
Walk.
run.
Ed,
And they're still looking for volunteers. So, you're welcome to volunteer for Camp Leavenworth, which is it's a lot of fun to volunteer for it. I've done that since the first year. So.
Ed, I know they changed the name. They can't use Buffalo Bill Days anymore because somebody patented the name, but it would. I think it would go over. Yeah, I think it would go over a lot better if you named it Buffalo Bill Days again. Can you change it to Wild Buffalo Bill Days or something? Because I think a lot more people would get behind it because everybody remembers the old Buffalo Bill Days.
No, but they're getting. I mean, it's getting a following.
Yeah,
Camp
it
Leavenworth
is,
But what about Wild Ed Hingula days?
We couldn't sell enough tickets.
Commissioners, Commissioners, the name Camp Leavenworth has been around about 5 years now. People are starting to recognize
Yeah.
Yeah, they are.
exactly what it
They
is
are.
and know what it is. And by the way, yes, it's coming up in September on the 20th and 21st to be precise.
Okay.
I meant to say that, but
Thank you.
Just missed it. It's just a fun event, and it's a good opportunity
Jeff, I
for
just
people
got
to
one thing.
just come out and have fun.
Okay. I've just got
And
one.
free. It's free.
I've just got, we like that. I just got one thing. I happened to have a chance to tour EMS in the county health department yesterday, and a lot of the improvements they've done, stuff like that. I'll tell you, I'm pretty impressed. They've used almost every space they've got out there for either a training or something like that. Jamie and his crew has done a good job. Got to meet a lot of the, not a lot, but some of the new employees. As I've said in the past, and I'll say it again, Livermore County's got some fantastic employees, no matter which department they're in or where they're located at. And yesterday was just showed that to be true. But if you get a chance to take a walk up there, take a look out there with Jamie and thing, they've really done some good things, especially their training on what they can do now and these robot type things. It's just impressive. That's all I have.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.